Just hours before giving birth, the dog was kicked out and gave birth there in tears. Azucena, a pregnant dog abandoned just hours before giving birth, was left in front of a stranger's house, scared and alone. Do you wonder how she was rescued and how her life would change after such a traumatic experience? Stay tuned for today's video on Pets in Love to discover more. Camilo's phone buzzed with urgency. It was a call he had come to dread, yet knew he couldn't ignore. "Please, come quickly," the voice on the other end pleaded. Moments later, an image popped up on his screen. A thin, frightened dog with a swollen belly, abandoned just hours from giving birth. Camilo had always felt a deep connection with animals. His compassion and love for them led him to establish Acción Animal, a volunteer organization that dedicated itself to rescuing and caring for the most vulnerable of creatures. The organization ran a shelter that housed around 200 rescued animals, each with its own story of hardship, hope, and healing. But even after years of rescuing, every rescue still had the potential to stir something in his heart, and this particular call would be one of those moments. Without wasting a second, Camilo grabbed his bag and headed for the shelter to gather the supplies. He was no stranger to rescuing dogs in labor, but this situation felt different. There was a weight in the man's voice, a sense of fear, as if he too felt helpless. When Camilo arrived at the location, the kind man was waiting for him by the door of his home. He looked shaken, but also relieved to see Camilo's arrival. "I've never experienced anything like this," he said, as he led Camilo to the abandoned dog. "I checked the security camera, and it's clear she was just left here. I don't know why anyone would do this." He arrived at the scene, guided by the kind man who had called. The dog was lying in the front yard of the man's house, trembling and unsure. Her eyes darted between Camilo and the man, her maternal instincts on high alert. She was terrified but desperate for help. The man said, his voice heavy with concern, "I couldn't just leave her." Within hours, the dog began labor, delivering 4 tiny puppies under the shelter of the man's porch. The first hints of a storm clouded the sky, and Camilo knew he had to move quickly. Storms could spell disaster for a new mother and her vulnerable pups. However, this was no ordinary rescue. New mothers were often extremely protective, and the stress of the situation could lead to unpredictable behavior. One wrong move, and the dog might lash out in fear. Camilo's calm demeanor and the man's gentle presence worked wonders. The dog, sensing their kindness, allowed Camilo to approach. Carefully, he placed each puppy into a padded box, keeping it low so she could see her babies. She watched intently, her eyes wide with fear, but glimmers of trust beginning to show. When the last puppy was in, Camilo lifted the mother into the car, but her panic flared again, her instincts screaming to protect her young. Camilo gently placed the box beside her, letting her touch and nuzzle her puppies. This small act of reassurance made all the difference. As the car sped toward the shelter, Camilo noticed the mother's behavior begin to shift. She had been lying quietly, her head resting on the edge of the box where her puppies were nestled. Now she was restless, her breathing uneven. She let out a low, soft whine and looked at Camilo with pleading eyes. At first, he thought she might be in distress, or experiencing a health issue from the stress of giving birth and the move. He pulled the car over, worried that she might need immediate attention. "What's wrong, girl?" he murmured, climbing into the back seat. The mother shifted uncomfortably, her body tensing. She paced within the cramped space and began to circle tightly, a behavior Camilo recognized from his experience with birthing dogs. A sudden realization struck him. She wasn't in trouble. She was about to give birth again. Quickly, Camilo grabbed a blanket from the back of the car and spread it over the seat. The mother dog settled down, though her movements were still tense and deliberate. Her breathing grew heavier, and Camilo stayed by her side, speaking softly to reassure her. "You've got this," he said, his voice steady despite the unexpected situation. "I'm right here." Minutes later, the first of the additional puppies began to emerge. The mother instinctively cleaned the tiny, squirming newborn, her exhaustion evident but her maternal instincts stronger. Camilo watched, ready to assist if necessary, but careful not to interfere unnecessarily. When the second puppy's turn came, it was smaller and weaker than its siblings. The mother paused, her energy flagging, and Camilo gently stepped in. Using a clean towel, he wiped the puppy and ensured it was breathing properly, before placing it close to its mother. The car was now filled with the soft squeaks of the newborns, their fragile presence a reminder of how precarious their start in life had been. Camilo carefully placed the 2 new puppies in the box with their siblings, ensuring the mother could see and nuzzle all of them. Her initial agitation began to fade as she lay down, her body heaving with deep, exhausted breaths. Camilo stayed with her for nearly an hour, monitoring her condition and keeping the puppies warm. He knew how critical these moments were, especially for the smallest and most vulnerable of the litter. Finally, when he was confident that the mother and her puppies were stable, he resumed the journey. Driving cautiously, he kept glancing back, making sure the fragile family remained safe. Finally, they reached the shelter. The mother was too drained to move, so Camilo carried her inside. The team had prepared a cozy, clean space for her and the puppies, complete with soft bedding and fresh food. The mother's eyes widened as she inspected the area. Slowly, she stepped inside, her body sagging with exhaustion but her spirit starting to lift. One by one, the puppies were placed beside her. She sniffed each one, ensuring they were safe, and then collapsed into a deep, much-needed rest. The following days were spent taking care of Azucena and her puppies. A veterinarian checked them all over, and to everyone's surprise, Azucena was in perfect health. No diseases, no signs of neglect or abuse beyond the trauma of being abandoned. Camilo couldn't understand why anyone would leave such a sweet dog in the most vulnerable moment of her life. It didn't make sense. As the weeks passed, the puppies grew stronger. They began to open their eyes, play with each other, and explore the small space they had been given. Azucena, for her part, blossomed. She gained strength, her coat grew shiny and soft again, and her eyes softened from the pain of her past. She watched over her puppies with a protective love that was unmistakable. Her bond with them was unbreakable. The time passed quickly, and soon, the puppies were ready for adoption. Camilo received countless inquiries about the 6 little girls. Many people were touched by their story and wanted to give them a loving home. Day 150 marked a beautiful milestone. All 6 puppies were adopted into wonderful families. They were happy, healthy, and about to begin a new chapter in their lives. But Azucena's journey wasn't over yet. She had been through so much, and now it was her turn to find her forever home. Thanks to the love and dedication of Camilo and his team, Azucena was ready for a fresh start. She had come so far from the abandoned dog in front of a stranger's house, and now it was time to celebrate her. Azucena was taken to the groomer for a well-deserved pampering. Her coat was washed, trimmed, and made even more beautiful than before. It was a celebration of everything she had endured and overcome. And as if fate had been waiting for this moment, a kind family reached out to adopt her. When Camilo met the family, tears welled in his eyes. They were a warm, loving family with 2 children, and they couldn't have been more excited to welcome Azucena into their home. The children's faces lit up with joy as they met their new furry friend. Camilo could see how much love they had to offer, and he knew Azucena was going to thrive in their care. The emotional farewell was bittersweet, but Camilo knew it was the right thing. Azucena had finally found her true family, the one that would love her unconditionally for the rest of her life. She was no longer the abandoned dog she had once been. She was a cherished member of a family, ready to embark on the new life she so deserved. As for Camilo, he watched as Azucena drove off with her new family, and he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had seen many rescues, but this journey with Azucena, was a reminder of why he did what he did every day. Acción Animal was more than just a shelter. It was a place of transformation, love, and second chances. For Azucena and her puppies, it had been the start of a new beginning, a dream come true. And with that, Azucena finally found peace. Thank you for watching Azucena's incredible journey. Her story is one of hope, compassion, and the power of second chances. We're so grateful to all of you for joining us on this rescue mission. What would you do if one day a dog like Azucena was left at your doorstep? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for sticking with us all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a big thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to turn on the bell and subscribe to our channel Pets in Love so you never miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support. Wishing you all peace, happiness, and a little bit of extra love today. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.